The fern observed was identified by the app PlantNet as possibly Adiantum latifolium or Adiantum caudatum. Genus-level identity as Adiantum seemed correct, since the fern under question has the characteristics of an Adiantum species, which are petioles and rhodosis which are polished terete that is cylindrical with tapering ends, blackish to castaneous that is reddish-brown, sorry formed on the veins of the recurved laminar margins that is false indusia, and absence of paraphysis. Similar to Adiantum are Lindseae and Adiantopsis. Lindseae have sori protected by true indusia borne submarginally on the laminar surface and opening towards the margin, unlike Adiantum, which has sori on the reflex margins of the lamina opening towards the midrib. While Adiantopsis can be differentiated from Adiantum by traits such as the paired ridges called carinae on the adaxial side of leaf axis and sometimes on stipe axis. The genus Adiantum encompasses an array of leaf morphologies from simple to pinnate to many times pinnate to pseudopedate. In Malaysia, the genus is represented by one pinnate species and many times pinnate species. The fern to be identified was bipinnate, so could not be any of the single pinnate species. Comparisons were made with ferns of more than one pinnate, though those showing pseudopedate frond architecture could be easily eliminated as the identity of the fern. Adiantum hispidulum has fronds pseudopedate and pinnules rhombic, unlike the unidentified bipinnate fern with pinnules oblong to trapeziform and slightly curved. Also excluded as the identity of the fern is Adiantum eluticum, which has frond architecture reflecting its common name, the five-fingered maidenhair. Another pedately branched or tripinnate Adiantum, which is fan-shaped and obviously not the identity of the unknown species, is Adiantum flabellulatum. This fern species has pinnules semi-orbicular when fertile and rhomboid when sterile, with pinnule stalks evident. In contrast to the fern to be identified, which has pinnules oblong to triangular, often falcate and more or less sessile, that is with very short pinnule stalks. Another species excluded as the unknown fern identity is Adiantum microphyllum, also known as the dwarf maidenhair fern, as the unidentified fern is not micro or dwarf. Adiantum aethiopicum, unlike the fern to be identified, may be tripinnate, has pinnules round to flabellate with distal margins sometimes shallowly lobed and sorrel flaps reniform to sublunate, that is about crescent-shaped. The unidentified fern's fronds are two pinnate, triangular-shaped with pinnules longer than broad, pinnule margins serrate in sterile fronds, pinnules more or less sessile, and sorrel flaps oblong. With so many differences between them, the unidentified fern is definitely not Adiantum aethiopicum. Excluding Adiantum capillus veneris as the species of the unidentified fern is its pinnules mostly wedge-shaped or flabellate, base cuneate, upper margin 4 to 5 lobed and stalked. Adiantum cunninghami in turn could be eliminated as the species of the fern to be ascertained, as it has pinnules outer margins irregularly lobed and a kidney-shaped sorrel flap covering the sorus, whereas in the fern to be identified, sterile pinnule margins are toothed and the sorrel flaps are oblong. The characteristics of Adiantum diaphinum, which eliminated it as the species of the fern to be identified, was the long stalk attached to the pinnule, setae on the abaxial axis of the pinnule, and reniform reflex laminar flaps. The pinnules on the unidentified fern were more or less sessile, pinnules glabrous, and reflex laminar flaps oblong. Adiantum stenoclamis was not the name of the fern in question due to its frond dissection bi to tripinnate, short rhizomes, pinnules fan-shaped with the rounded distal margins, sometimes lobed, and a pinnule stalk. The fern to be identified is bipinnate with pinnules oblong to triangular, slightly falcate, and more or less sessile, that is, the stalks are less than a millimeter. While I could not find much information on Adiantum hosei, the herbarium specimens and images observed online indicate that it is not the identity of the specimen to be identified due to differences in frond architecture, pinnule shape, and presence of pinnule stalk. Also, it was reported that Adiantum hosei has the acroscopic ends of the lower epidermal cells between veins curling up from the surface and becoming hair-like, which I did not observe on the unidentified fern. Adiantum fructuosum, unlike the sample, has short creeping rhizomes usually knotted instead of long creeping rhizomes, which are not knotty. Tips of the pinnules obtuse instead of acute, and the upper margins are straight instead of curved. So again, not the fern to be identified. Adiantum trapeziforme, though quite similar to the fern to be identified, has pinnule margins lobed and pinnule stalks of up to 5 mm, while in the fern to be identified, the sterile pinnules have upper margins serrate and pinnules are more or less sessile. Moreover, the sori of Adiantum trapeziforme are short, whereas on the fern to be identified, the sori are oblong. The fern observed was identified as Adiantum latifolium, with its rhizome long creeping, not knotty, laminar bipinnate, more or less triangular in outline, pinnules trapeziform, slightly falcate, more or less sessile, sori along the upper edge and outer half of lower margin, and reflex laminar segments oblong. Listed are references for further information on the Adiantums. I hope this video helps you identify the green around you and more pointers to recognize our green surroundings on this channel. So do subscribe. Thank you.